everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm back with another review that I found on Tubi. Now, not too long ago I did a short about this particular movie that I found on Tubi. I just kind of found it by accident, just surfing through there, trying to find some good independent horror films, because those are the ones that I like. Because I mean, I'm telling you, these independent horror films, they're a dime a dozen, man. They are everywhere. So this particular one right here had the strangest title ever: The COVID Killer. I never thought in a million years I would see a horror movie, named after, the coronavirus, but it was. And I think, that was pretty interesting and pretty bold, and pretty brave to name a horror movie after COVID-19. So to see that, I was like, wow, I gotta watch this movie, whether it's good or bad. I didn't even, watch the trailer or anything. I just dove straight into it because I was like, I gotta see this movie. And I didn't even lay down watching this one. I literally set up because I wanted to see exactly, what they were gonna be doing in this particular movie. And according to the, I guess you could say the poster, I kind of felt like it was gonna be maybe some, I'm not trying to, get political or anything, but I was kind of thinking like, well, maybe it's gonna be like some right-wing extremist, going after, a bunch of people wearing masks or something. That's what I was kind of like thinking or whatever. But it wasn't about that, so let's get off into what the movie was about. Try not to leave too many spoilers just in case you want to go watch it yourself. And so let's get into it. The COVID Killer pretty much starts off when the coronavirus, first hit. This movie is kind of going off like real current events, like it's a true story. But of course, it's not a true story, but it lines up with the timetable of like when COVID first came, and when they first got into the lockdown period. They started making people wear masks. They was talking about social distancing and all that stuff. They even had a lot of like live clips. I mean, like, hey, they had Trump in there. They had Governor Cuomo out of New York. They had clips of him, and they were pretty much showing how even the police department, how they were having to wear a mask and everything. So I thought that was pretty neat how they mixed in like what was actually going on with the fiction events that was happening in the movie. So the movie pretty much follows these two detectives who are on a case that they're trying to find a killer, I guess you could say serial killer, that's going around killing people in a surgical mask. So this was around the time where people were saying like, oh, we got to wear a mask. You're not going to tell who, people are. You can't be able to identify anybody if they commit a crime. Well, that definitely happened in this movie for sure. So that actually came up, several times. So now that I've gone over the premise of the movie, let's get into my likes and dislikes. No matter how good or bad a movie is, there are always gonna be some things that you like about the movie and some things you didn't like about the movie. So let's just get into my dislikes first, and we get into the good stuff second. So what I didn't like about it was there were a lot of scenes in the movie that made no sense to the movie, in my opinion. There were some scenes in the movie that went on way too long. I'm like, gosh, when is this scene gonna end? It's not, I mean, but like, for example, if the scene, like one particular scene I'm talking about, they had this damn near pornographic sex scene in the movie. That scene absolutely made no sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, the sexual part added to the story in a significant way. However, the graphicness, of it was just unnecessary. I'm watching like a horror movie, trying to get to the story, but you throwing like damn near pornographic scene in the movie that's like really taking up too much screen time, for a movie like this. But hey, I guess that was one of their things. They were trying to be, you know, hardcore, trying to push the movie out there. But sometimes less is better. Because I like watching these independent films, and I noticed that the ones that go straight to the point, they're always really good all the way through. But the ones that go overboard with stuff that they think people are gonna like, they don't turn out to be that good. I mean, if a person wants to watch some porn, they'll just put on Pornhub and go do that, not watch the COVID killer. All right, so I didn't like that. Another thing I didn't like was the scene with the two goofy detectives. They kept showing them throughout the film, but they didn't really add to the movie. I thought for sure that these two goofy detectives were like gonna be like a victim of the COVID killer, which would have added to it, because you know when you first get introduced to them, you know you don't like them, you know, because they're like, you know, we got these two cool detectives, and then we have these two goofy detectives that are like bumbling idiots. You know, you wonder like, how did they even become detectives, right? So I'm thinking like, oh yeah, they're gonna get killed, and you're gonna be like, oh, I'm so glad they got killed. But they didn't even get killed or anything. They showed them like a couple of times and they were gone. I'm like, okay, that was useless, you know. And another part in the movie that was like took way too much time was the scene where a couple of cops, I guess you can say like racist cops, were like recreating the George Floyd situation. And I thought that scene was okay, because I felt like they were trying to push that out there, you know, like this, you know, racial injustice, you know, Black Lives Matter movement or whatever. I felt like, you know, hey, you want to do that, fine, but it went on way too long. I mean, they drug it out way too long. That scene could have took 2 minutes. You know, or not even 2 minutes, could have took like a minute. We get the picture. It was on the news for months, okay? So they could have pushed that along. All right, so let's get into the things I liked. All right, what I liked about it was a horror film. You know, for what it was. It was a horror film. They had some good killing scenes, and they also had some scenes that I liked. It kind of reminded me of this game I love to play, because I'm a big gamer too. They had a couple of Dead by Daylight scenes in there. I was like, I like that. It reminded me so much of you know, Dead by Daylight, that particular scene. So I kind of laughed at that part. They had a really good scene in there where I almost screamed at the TV. You know how you watch these horror movies, you're like, oh, don't do that, you know, like that. But it was like, don't do that in a good way, not in a goofy way, like the movie was like so stupid, like, oh, don't do that, you know. No, this was a genuine scene where I was like, oh, get him, no. You know, not gonna give it away, but I would say, you know, if you're into horror films, especially indie ones, go give it a watch. It's not gonna hurt you, it's not gonna kill you anything, it's not gonna give you COVID. But anyway, yeah, for what it is, the movie was good to watch. I mean, overall, yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but except for the few scenes that I, you know, didn't like. There were a few more scenes I didn't like, but I don't want the video to go on long. You go ahead on, download Tubi if you don't have it, and the COVID killer, go watch it, check it out, and you know, draw your own conclusions, because if you're a horror fan like I am, you're gonna find something that you like about it. All right, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you all very soon on the next one. Later, bye.